What was your scariest a second later and I would have died moment? On 16th December 2004 I was with a friend having a beer in a bar on the Khao San Road in Bangkok, Thailand. It was the last week of my bumming round the world and we had a decision to make. Do we go home for Christmas or spend it on the beach in Phuket? Neither of us had been to Phuket and we thought it would be an awesome end to living out of a backpack for the last 18 months, but on the other hand Christmas at home with the family was also appealing. So we flipped a coin and went home to the UK. Flipping that coin a second earlier or later could have sent us into the path of the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. How crazy is it to think someone's entire life, at that moment, rested in a coin toss? What's the most you've ever lost on a coin flip? My friend and I were taking an elevator down to the cafeteria in our dorm in college. For some reason, we were arguing about something when the doors opened, so we hung back for a second. Then the elevator dropped 2 floors with the doors open. I still hate getting in / out of elevators and I do a weird running start every time. When I was in middle school I called my mom on my cell during lunch because my head hurt so badly I couldn't move. She was on speed dial. Well, the nurse came and brought me to the office for a checkup and some pain pills while I waited for my mom. We didn't live close. Nurse said no fever and to take me home and put me to bed. My mom watched me get into the truck and decided that maybe we should go to the hospital to be safe. By the time we reached the hospital, it was further than our home. My temp was at 104 and I was incapacitated. I had meningitis. If we went home and she put me to bed like the nurse suggested, I never would have woken up. I was walking into a Miller's Outpost, tells you the time period, and the M from the sign above the store fell down and hit me on the shoulder. It was a big glass sign. 1 moment sooner and it hits my head. Because it drew blood, the store offered to give me any item I wanted so I wouldn't sue. I chose an awful red cardigan. I was 16 and dumb. Damn it, you should have sued, then you cold bought the whole store. Got all the awful red cardigans. When I was about 9 or 10, I was in the basement helping my grandma do laundry. She had a big braided rug on the floor, and I was bouncing all over the place. I was wearing socks and jumping on and off the rug. She bends over to get something out of the dryer and reaches across the rug to grab something. I realize what she's reaching for is a snake. Just inches between the two of us. I yell at her to stop. We both scream and the snake quickly takes on an aggressive posture. I run outside and grab a broom and my grandma starts beating the poor thing to death with it. Grandpa hears the commotion and rushes downstairs and delivers the fatal blow. Turns out that little note noodle that snuck into the house was a venomous copperhead. A couple months ago I was in a head-on collision with some dude on crack driving down the wrong side of the road with his headlights out. I was going probably around 50 before I saw him. Speed limit was 55 so that's my best guess. Saw him with a second or two of reaction time. Managed to brake hard and swerve over only bad enough to total my car. But I still walked away with nothing more than a sore neck. If I hadn't seen the dude I don't doubt that I cold died or been seriously injured. Nighttime, I'm guessing what color was the car. When I was in junior high I was carpooling with another kid and her mom. For a reason I can't fathom she decided to race a transit train hoping to get across the tracks before the train stopped traffic. She gunned the car. I was in the backseat screaming no. She hit the train. Because I was in the backseat I was injured the least. I had a pointy piece of metal pierce through my jeans and flesh until it hit bone. Had she been a second faster the train would have hit us broadside and killed us all. I've alt posted about this elsewhere, but when I was in high school I was attacked by a man who slammed me up against a brick wall and started banging my head against it hard. After about the third bang I realized he was trying to knock me unconscious, so I closed my eyes and acted like I'd passed out. He let me fall to the ground, and he took a second to position himself on top me. That's when I scrambled out of his reach and took off running. I'm pretty sure that if he'd gotten his hands on me again I wouldn't be alive right now. Went to a corner store for a drink. Literally 2 minutes after I left someone robbed it and shot the cashier and another person in the store. Earlier this week I saw a young guy almost get killed by a tram. He wasn't listening to music or anything but it was early in the AM and he barely caught it out of the corner of his eye. The first thing he did was a textbook Wilhelm scream and then he noticed me looking and said, "Well, I'm fucking awake now." It passed probably 2 centimeters in front of his nose. My family and I were driving down the highway when we see a stopped SUV in the middle of the highway with a family of 6 inside, and the car in front of us didn't get out of the way until the last second. Same shit has happened to me. Dark rainy night. A car in the right lane was just stopped dead. Car in front of me changed lanes about 50 yards beforehand. I was inches away from rear-ending him at 50 miles per hour. My story is a second earlier and I would have died. Basically, I got T-boned by a van while riding my bicycle, missed me by a couple inches, destroyed the back of the bike, and threw me into traffic. When I was 5 or 6, we were on holidays in Australia. My mother took me to a beach that is known because it's safe thanks to a net system that doesn't let the sharks in. Well, when we arrived the beach was empty, what was kinda strange. But we continued to have a beach day and we had a bath. My mother even swam from one point to another. After that, we were going to the car and some authorities saw us. They told us to not enter the beach because a family of alligators had entered in the water and it was really dangerous. Nice of them to have nets to keep the crocodile food from swimming away. Don't think I would have died, but to change things up from car related incidents, I once left a lighter near a fire pit by mistake and I was near it roasting marshmallows. I had to go inside to grab chocolate and I came back out and, just as I was walking back to the fire pit, the lighter exploded. My backpack got hit by a car while I was wearing it, knocked me flat on my ass, but I was okay. I briefly looked at my phone to skip a song on Spotify and barely missed walking right in front of my neighbor's truck. I didn't notice at the time and was actually told by said neighbor the next day. It's a weird feeling knowing that you were completely oblivious to almost dying. Not me, but my dad decided to stay for one more drink at a bar after work back in 1989. If he left before that last drink, he would have been on the Old Bay Bridge, very close if not under the section that collapsed during the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. A second doesn't really apply to my story, but about an hour does. When I was in 2nd grade, my appendix swelled up and burst. I had severe pain for weeks while the doctors tried to figure out what was wrong. After staying at the hospital for some time, they suddenly said they needed to operate. They had finally figured out what was wrong and had to basically clean out my insides, since it had burst quite some time ago. I was in a pretty critical state. If they hadn't realized soon after they did, I wouldn't be here. Once I almost stepped on a scorpion fish. That was a close call, believe me. It was in no more than 3 feet of water in plain sand. So be careful, everyone. I crossed the road behind a tram, not seeing the track beside it going the other direction. The oncoming tram missed me by inches. I was like 6 or 7 when my dad and I were driving to his parents' summer cabin. Suddenly, a huge fucking moose runs from the forest, from our right, and across the road. I mean, there's no small moose, let's get that straight. But this fucker was out of this world huge, and we avoided hitting it by literally just a second. It was so close that I'm sure we would have hit it if either we or the moose gained a second somewhere. We would have been dead for sure. Hitting a moose with car is almost surely a death sentence anyway, but that thing was just so extra large that there would have been no chance. My boyfriend at the time put his arms around my neck and choked me. I remember panicking and trying to kick and pull his arm away. I remember thinking clearly that I needed to get him off me to let him know I couldn't breathe. After a moment of struggling, I remember thinking, I guess this is it, goodbye, and then falling asleep. I was so disoriented when I regained consciousness. He was crying and panicking. I was hyperventilating, but I felt like I just woke up and didn't understand what was happening. Literally last week I was crossing the street with my sister and we saw this huge lifted truck with a big trailer connected with a tractor on the back. He was stopped and checking his left for a few seconds and we were waiting and finally decided to start walking. But the second we started walking, he slammed on his gas and turned right and never once looked in our direction. If we had started walking 1 second sooner, we would have been flat. Scary how every single one I've read is car related. When I was little, I was sitting in the car with my mom. We were driving on the freeway, and I was doing something like looking at my fingers. My mom needed to merge lanes, but this one dude didn't let her. This one dude crashed and the person behind him was hit with the car he was in. My mom would have merged behind him. You have been visited by the smart studying doggo. You'll be blessed with good grades only if you subscribe to Comment Awards and like the video.
PG!
On top, food chain, won't stop, new game, hot box at Blue Haze, 1 lot, 2 chains, no bras, 2 babes, mic drop, new stage, lights in my rear view, 5 cops, full race, faster than a Tesla, they say I'm exhausted, looking for success, like I'm crazy and lost it, higher than a jet, guess my weed is a rocket, the comments that my vids get are wild.